Thanks for joining us and welcome back to the Watchman on the Wall podcast. Periodically, we'll bring you true stories of angelic encounters, heavenly visitations, near-death experiences, as well as modern-day prophecies that are relevant to us today. When we come back, we'll begin our next episode. Hello again, and welcome back to the Watchman on the Wall podcast. Today, Stan Johnson is going to talk about a possible stock market crash as a result of all of this Washington stuff going on with the debt ceiling. He shares the latest news and updates that are going on around the country and the world on this issue, and he also ties it in with what the modern day prophets are saying are going to happen. There is a correlation here, whether that this is the start of the internal revolution and the fall of the dollar, we just don't know. Hopefully it is not. But without further ado, here is Stan Johnson with the latest update on the debt ceiling and what may happen to the stock market.
Welcome to the Prophecy Club. Our topic today is, believe it or not, stock market has a high probability of crashing in 2 weeks. Really? Well, that's what they're saying. Stock market to crash in 2 weeks. I'll show you. First of all, AlternateRadioShow.com. Social Security payments may be interrupted if U.S. defaults on debts by June 1. Now remember, Shane Warren was told that there is going to be a crash of the dollar, and there's going to be people holding up signs saying, we want our entitlements. So here it is. With the odds of the U.S. debt increasing, Social Security advances warn beneficiaries that they should be prepared in case their payments are interrupted. I hope you are listening. In other words, you need to have, in my opinion, probably at least 2, maybe 3 or 4 months worth of your car payments and house payments in either gold, silver, or cash, preferably silver. That's, again, I'm not giving you financial advice. I'm not a financial planner. I can tell you that's kind of my plan. Negotiations around whether the nation's ability to borrow money should be expanded, having been ongoing, but Congress and the White House have yet to reach an agreement on the path forward. The impasse leaves some of the most vulnerable Americans at risk, as in anybody that's getting a check from the government. Director of Government Relations and Policy for the National Committee to Preserve Social Security and Medicare said, there is a good chance that in the event of default, millions of Americans' benefits would go disrupted. Seniors should be prepared. If they're financially able, they should consider putting off discretionary purchases so that they have enough time to tide them over. In other words, making sure you're going to be able to make that house payment, that car payment, whatever you don't want to get repossessed. About 40% of the Social Security recipients receive 90% of their income from the safety net program. That equates to nearly 27 million people. Okay, so try to imagine 27 million people that are used to picking up that mailbox check or seeing that money appear in their account. All of a sudden, it's not coming. Hasn't been coming for 2 weeks, hasn't been coming for 2 months. The banks are saying we're going to repossess your house, repossess your car. If you don't want to be in that position, make plans now. The White House and the House Republicans remained at odds after meeting on Wednesday to discuss a resolution to the impasse. Led by House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, the GOP seeks spending cuts from President Biden, but they're not agreeing. Most important news, if no debt ceiling is dealt with by June, stock markets crash. The economy implodes and Social Security payments don't go out. Experts are telling us that the stock market will crash, the economy will immediately plunge into recession, and tens of millions of Americans will not get their Social Security payments. That means food stamps too, I assume. Treasury Secretary says U.S. debt default would begin somewhere around June 1st. I hope you're getting this. But what is exceedingly clear is that the time is very short, and there are only 4 days when the House and the Senate both are scheduled to be in session before June 1st. In other words, we've only got 4 chances between now and June 1 to fix this. And since several of the prophecies say that it is going to default, that there are going to be people out there that are not getting their entitlement checks, my guess is it's about to happen. Of course, the Republicans in the House have already passed a bill to raise the debt ceiling, but it is not acceptable to the wonderful Biden administration. The Biden administration has chosen to play hardball, and so we're really facing the possibility of a nightmare scenario. The following description could be happening, so says Washington Post. Federal workers furloughed, you call it laid off. Social Security checks for seniors on hold or not sent out. Soaring mortgage rates. In other words, that rate on your adjustable mortgage going through the roof. Your adjustable credit card going through the roof. So you might want to get to the place where you don't have to pay those. Global financial system sent reeling. I know. You're saying, Stan, there's nothing I can do about it. I'm living hand to mouth right now. I understand. To a certain degree, I'm the same way. But nevertheless, to those people that can do something, now's the time to do something. Leaders from Congress and the White House are trying to forge an agreement to lift the federal debt ceiling with only a few weeks before it is too late. If they fail, the government can't meet its payment obligations. Economists and financial experts predict chaos. According to the Post, there are 7 major things to watch for if the U.S. debt default actually happens. 1, stock markets crash. We've been warned. A sudden recession, straight out of Shane Warren's prophecies, Maurice Sklar prophecies, Dana Coverstone prophecies. Federal workers in limbo or laid off. Social Security and Medicare missed payments. We want our entitlements. U.S. borrowing costs soar. All of the interest rates start going up. That also means you're not able to borrow new money. Probably they'll just cut off all of your credit cards, so your credit cards are no longer active, and they want you to start paying it off. And they might even say, we want to pay it off in 30 days. Who knows? Economic problems spread worldwide. The dollar drops along with our U.S. prestige. But if there is no deal for several months, things could get really crazy. In fact, the White House is projecting, look at this is what the White House is saying. Stock market prices could fall by 45%. Now, if the stock market begins to fall, where do you think those smart people that invested all of their these savings into the stock market, where do you think they'd put it? Oh, I know. We're probably thinking gold and silver, and that would be a smart place. Okay, so we know that silver, according to Shane Warren, silver is going to skyrocket far more than gold. So if you're going to get gold and silver, when do you think would be a good time to get it? Once the stock market crashes, first of all, if you can even buy it, gold or silver, you'll be doing good. If you can even find it to buy. But you can imagine the prices are going to be many times more than what they are today. So, if it were me, I would be calling Cornerstone Asset Metals.com and say, okay, here's how much I got. Here's how much I can lay my hands on. These are my monthly payments. This is my car payment, my house payment. And, I want to have enough money to be able to make these payments. Help! What do I do? Get some good advice. Moody's Analytics has estimated that stock prices could fall by roughly 1/5, wiping out $10 trillion in household wealth. In other words, just like the prophecies say, all of their wealth is gone basically overnight. The White House has estimated decline 45%. Oh, well, the GOP will never let that happen. Oh, yeah? Trump just urged the GOP to let the catastrophic debt default happen if Dems don't accept cuts. He said, this is when he was being interviewed on CNN, which I thought he won. I thought he did a spectacular job. I say to the Republicans out there, congressmen, senators, if they don't give you massive cuts, you're going to have to do a default. Okay, so do you think that they're following Trump's lead? I do. I think that there's a lot more of them that think Trump is the real president. And even if they weren't, they're still believing what he's going to say, and they're going to follow it. If you listen to what he's saying crash is on the way. 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Maybe 2 weeks. Probably not 3. So if you're listening, you may be saying, honey, we got to do something. No more thinking about it. No more praying about it. At least not pray to decide down the road. At least you better pray and get it in less than 2 weeks. He goes on to say, you're going to have to default, said Trump, and I don't believe that they're going to default. Oh, yes, they are. Look, you have to understand the Democrats' objective is to kill America. So anything that will kill America fits in with their objectives. Why? Because they want to put their man, the Antichrist, on the throne. Can't do that with America standing in strength. Got to destroy America. So if you don't think that the Democrats would destroy America, you are sadly mistaken. And I don't believe they're going to default because I think the Democrats will absolutely cave. Wrong, Trump. Will absolutely cave because you don't want to have that happen. But it's better than what they're doing right now because we're spending like drunken sailors. Well, you might as well do it now because you'll do it later. Because we have to save this country. Our country is dying. That I'll agree with. Our country is being destroyed by stupid people, by very stupid people. I would say by sinful people, by communists. Okay, so Trump is openly telling them default. The Democrats are saying we're not going to agree. Republicans are saying we're not going to back up. So everybody's in default. So if you look at that, what's about to happen? We're about to see America default. We're about to see the death of our nation, death of our dollar, death of the stock market. And you better, I'm telling you, we've been talking about this a long time, okay? You've been following us. I got an email the other day. I've been following you since 1994. Well, we started in 1993. Get prepared. I would say get on your face, maybe even fast a day or two and say, God, what do I do? Only you know what I really need to do. So, tornado threat canceled Trump's Iowa rally. This is Saturday night. This is May 13th, Saturday night. Now, I thought this was real interesting. I've been telling you about scalar wave. So only a few hours later, incident, aka another event in Alaska, registered 3.9 size quake, but not a quake. If you see here, this is where it is up in the Aleutian Islands. I like what he said here. He said something enormous took place. It was not an earthquake, but it registered at a 3.9 quake nonetheless. And the USGS registered it as an other event. They thought it was kind of strange because World Trade Center, they registered as building collapse. Mining, explosions, quarries, they register them as quarry blast. But this, they registered as an other event. That area of Alaska is almost completely without population for hundreds of miles. That's what's going on. He said there is a volcano close, but there was no eruption. Now here's the key. I checked with my former colleagues in the intelligence community and got a terse, can't talk about it. Okay, what are they saying? There's more. So something very big took place in the far remote area of the Aleutian Islands that generated a force which registered 3.9 on the earthquake, but wasn't an earthquake. Okay, so if the intelligence community would say can't talk about it, if they hadn't had anything to do with it, if they didn't know what it was, they'd have said, we don't know. We don't have anything to do with it. We don't know. They didn't say that. Instead, they said, can't talk about it. What that tells me is they know what happened. They were probably part of it, or at least allowed it, but they can't talk about it because retaliation from the White Hats.
We'll be right back with part 2 of our podcast on this very fascinating subject right after this. Hello again, this is The Watchman. Please join us each week for an exciting and inspirational podcast dealing with angel encounters, heavenly visitations, near-death experiences, as well as modern-day prophecies that are relevant to us today. So tune in each week and share it with your friends. After all, they could use a little inspiration in their life, too. That's the Watchman on the Wall podcast, and now you can find us on YouTube. Now, in part 2 of our podcast, Stan goes into some of the prophecies that go along with what he's talking about today with the fall of the dollar and the stock market crash and all that. We certainly hope and pray none of this comes to pass. However, it's always good to be prepared. So here now is Stan Johnson with part 2 of our podcast.
Okay, now let's jump over and see what the prophets say about this. I read this last week, but it fits now even more. July 25, 2010. So Leslie had a dream. Stan and I were watching a mudslide in progress. That's a financial slide, just like what's about to happen probably in the next 2 weeks. Some houses had already fallen, meaning some people's finances had already fallen. We began going from house to house shouting, "You're on the edge." If you don't want to fall in the mudslide, you have to balance your house. Or, I would say it this way, get your finances in order. If you don't want to fall in the mudslide, you have to balance your house. You must stop standing on the edge and hanging over. Only a few houses remain standing, meaning only a few people's finances remain standing. Hope you're listening. Scene changed. We're on a boat floating in the mud. There were already fish everywhere in our boat, meaning we had already won a lot of people to Christ. Suddenly, fish from all directions began jumping out of the mud, or the world of sin, into our boat. In other words, accepting Jesus. Along with them, there were several very large fish. In other words, a lot of people that used to have a lot of money, that didn't need Jesus, didn't need the Bible, didn't need to go to church. All of a sudden, they had their cage rattled. I was holding a very huge, unusual-looking fish which had no scales. It looked like a skinned cat. Stan said, "What's that?" I replied, "It's a fish if you can't see." Stan inquired, "Well, why is it so strange looking? I've never seen a fish like that before." I answered, "Well, this fish looks like a chicken with the skin peeled off. They have nothing to protect them now. They're jumping into the boat. They're receiving Jesus, jumping into the boat when their houses fell in the mudslide." Interpretation. Leslie says, "I always pray that if the dream was from the Lord, that he would continue speaking and help me to understand the meaning." And he did. The mudslide is the financial fall in our nation, which is about to start. Hope you're listening. By us going from house to house, warning the people to get balanced and get off the edge, is telling us that we should be prepared and for our neighbors. By warning them to get their houses in balance, in order, we should be prepared to help win souls, as many as can be saved. It is warning many, including Christians, to stop sinning, get right with Christ, but of course, some won't make it. The strange-looking fish were non-believers that came out of the world of sin, now choosing to follow Christ, jumping into the boat. The reason the fish looked like skinned cat is because that's exactly what had just happened to them financially. They lost all of their wealth, and it can go just that quick. All of their wealth, protection, cover, and life stripped away. It shows their nakedness without Jesus, you see. Their sin has been revealed to them, and now the only redemption is Christ and joining him. Further confirmation, California Governor Newsom, that wonderful good Christian guy, announces $32 billion budget deficit. Just happens to be coming at the wrong time or the right time, depends on how you look at it. He says California's budget deficit has grown to nearly $32 billion. He says that the state's challenges are partly due to high federal inflation rates and the state's decision to let some people delay filing their taxes after winter storms by loaning. California is one of the only states to have shortfall this year. That's mostly because its progressive tax code relies on wealthy taxpayers whose income is closely tied to the performance of the stock market. Stock market. Stock market crash, California crash. California crash, everybody live in California crash. His latest proposal includes roughly another $1 billion in spending reductions. Would that be not sending out state checks? Probably. Some of that comes from clawing back unspent money in various programs, including those designed to provide tax refunds and help people with their utility bills. Communism. 1999, one of the first dreams that I ever received from the Lord. I was walking under a large bank. The bank covered one city block. I was walking on dirt, looking up to see the bottom of the first floor about 15 feet above me. I noticed the foundation of the bank was made of red brick, the same kind of red brick used to build houses. That would never hold the weight of a large bank. I began to notice that the foundation was only 1 brick thick and had large holes in the foundation every 10 to 20 feet. Right in front of me, though, about 5 steps away, was a hole in the foundation so large I could get on my knees and crawl through it. I thought, wow, this is dangerous. This bank could collapse and fall down at any minute. I looked at this weak foundation. I thought there's no way this foundation could hold the weight of this bank in a good day, especially in an earthquake or a financial disaster like what's about to happen. I started to walk the 5 steps to the hole in front of me and get down on my knees and crawl out from under it. Then I noticed another one 25 feet away, bigger. I could just walk out. I chose to take the easy way out and began to walk toward the larger hole. All of a sudden, the bank began to shake. The bank fell down halfway, meaning the dollar falls 50%, just like that. What was 15 feet? Now 7 foot. Instantly, I was surrounded by a mass of terrified, screaming people, running in all directions, no place to go. It was panic. That's what's about to happen. They were running into me and blocking my way to the easy opening. Seconds earlier would have made an easy escape route, but now I couldn't even see any escape route anymore. I looked for the hole 5 steps away where I could have got on my knees, crawled through, but I couldn't find that either. I was in a panic and lost. Well, I want to say I'm right now as best prepared. I mean, wife and I are saying, bring it on, bring it on. You know, we're best prepared. We think we can be prepared. I was just as lost and just as much in panic as everyone else. I ran to the far side of the bank, found a large hole, and got out from under the bank. And I knew I had to get several blocks away from the bank because the building was many stories high and I didn't want it to fall on me. But as I stepped from under the foundation, I saw a chain link fence about 25 feet away, approximately 15 foot tall, topped with razor wires surrounding the entire bank. About half a city block away was a security guard firing a machine gun, killing people from a guard tower along the fence. He was telling people to get back into the bank. Some were laying dead, others he was shooting as fast as they neared the fence. He was trying to keep people under the falling bank. In other words, this is evil trying to keep us in the evil falling system. We get out of the system by having gold and silver and things like that. cornerstoneassetmetals.com. I saw an old pickup truck parked next to the fence. I waited until his head was turned. Running, I put my left foot on the bed, the right foot on the cab, jumping for my life, and I jumped over the fence. I had escaped, but only at the risk of my life. Looking back, I saw many others trapped or dead. Byron Surley, 2022. 3 days ago, October 5th, 2022, the Lord gave me 3 quick flash visions, one after another: a knife, dollar bill, and a nuclear blast. I again saw the vision of the dollar bill in more detail and received the word and interpretation as follows. I saw a dollar bill lying on the ground. It was face up, and I could see George Washington's head. Then I saw what looked like a tiny point of laser beam or pinpoint sunlight on a magnifying glass begin moving along the edges of the ends of the dollar bill. As I watched, both ends caught on fire, and the fire burned in from both sides of the dollar and began to move in slowly towards the middle. The fire then started to move a little faster and was getting closer to Washington's face when suddenly a huge rock fell and crushed the dollar. Now, I don't exactly know what that huge rock is. It might be that meteor. All that was left remaining was the rock and the smoke that was coming out from underneath it. The vision ended. The Lord spoke this word to me. My son, what you saw was the death of the dollar. Right now, it is slowly burning on both ends. Soon, very soon, as quickly as the huge rock fell on it and crushed it, the dollar will crash. It will burn to 30%. Men will try to prop it up, but to no avail. Then it will continue to burn to 50% of value. That's just what Coverstone said. That's just what Maurice Sklar said. 50% of value. Men will panic, unable to stop the fire. Then a huge collapse will occur when my rock makes a visit. That sounds like the tsunami, the meteor. My son, This event will happen very quickly. All banks will be closed. All banks will be closed. All banks will be closed. All ATMs will be down. All ATMs will be down. No one will have access to their money. No one will. Okay. So I keep talking about a week or two, but let's talk about the bad side. So what happens if there's no way you can access your money for, say, 2 or 3 months? You prepared for that? Think it through. I know the husband or the wife that's not in agreement with you might have some problems with this, but it's better to be prepared. Prepare for the worst, pray for the best. Amen? This is when evil men will bring about a new money. That's the digital currency, one that cannot be held. All men will be given an account with this money in the bank. This is the beginning of the beast system. We've been talking about that too. Soon men will need to have a number and a mark to be able to access their money. Revelation 13:15, no man might buy or sell save he had the mark of the name of the beast of the number of his name. My son, very soon this will come about. Shout, repent to my children who care more about money than me. Shout, repent to those who place their trust in the riches of this world more than me. Shout, repent, and come out of the world systems and trust me. I am coming soon. To a bride who will be spotless and pure, make yourselves ready and follow my word. What I'm trying to say is, brothers and sisters, we've been talking about this for a long time. And now, for a lot of very good reasons, it appears that it is here. Have you asked Jesus to forgive your sins? Have you got on your face and maybe fasted a day or two and asked God to show you what you need to do to get prepared? Have you got some preparations? Do you have some of that josephkitchen.com wheat? Are you prepared to feed your family for maybe a year? Do you have some of that gold and silver? cornerstoneassetmetals.com. Have you got yourself one of those EMP shield devices? empshield.com. Promo code prophecy. Have you got yourself ready, or are you going to be one of those people panicking? I beg you, get prepared. Send this out to your other brothers and sisters, especially Christians. Christians are probably the only ones that'll listen. Send it out. Let them know. They might not do anything, but when this comes to pass, they'll come back and say, okay, you have my attention now. What should I do?
Hello again, this is The Watchman. Please join us on our new video channel called Encounters from Beyond the Veil. It's the same exciting content as our audio podcast, but in a shorter, but yet a video format. Also, please subscribe so you won't miss any of our episodes. That's Encounters from Beyond the Veil, exclusively found on YouTube. Well, thanks again for listening, and if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your friends. Any comments or suggestions you may have, you can send to thewatchmanonthewall2020@gmail.com. We encourage you to subscribe so you'll always be notified of our future episodes. Well, thanks again, and we'll see you next time on the Watchman on the Wall podcast.